Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the sponsor would yield.
Yes, I will, Mr. Speaker.
Farrell
Yes, I
yields.
will.
Thank you, Denny, and you gave us the overall appropriation for this, but you did list off a number of areas that it provides the funding, but as we've seen in other parts of the budget this year, there are pieces omitted from that and not included, and so am I correct to assume that we will be seeing additional bills that will provide some direction on areas such as education and beyond?
Yes.
And do you have a time frame with that?
As soon as possible.
Thank you. So $174 billion authorization here. One of the things, and I know I've asked you other years, I know I've asked you earlier this year when we did the extender, but anything in here, this is where we would normally see some mandate relief for our local governments and school districts. Anything within this that we could look toward as providing some relief to them?
Yes, right. Lots of things, which, we've got about $1.8 billion we would be adding, and includes the different things, including the aims, the school aid titles. School aid is not in this, but it will be. Committee and special educations, DWs. We have issues that DWI accepts Sweet New York City Traffic Violation Bureau, local public health fundings, restoring. There's a whole list of things that we do and have done.
So some of those provide financial relief to one entity or another, but anything on process that would reduce spending at the local government level, perhaps in fewer regulations or other areas that we could point to and tell our local county governments, our municipalities, or our school districts, we're relieving you this year. We're going to actually provide some savings to you by relieving you of these things.
Yes, we do. We have our legislature provide about $7 million in miscellaneous financial assistance. The Onondaga County, $2 million. Niagara County, $1.4 million. Agency Fund Economic Development Initiatives with the City of Niagara Falls. The County of Franklin, mitigating shortfall in real property taxes due to the loss of taxable land from the Regis Mohawk. A lot of folks are hurt on that. $310,000 to the County of Seneca for the same reason, taxable land that is lost. $250,000 for South Fallsburg Fire Department to offset the cost of a new ladder truck, so we won't burn down something, they'll get there faster. $250,000 for the town of Rotterdam. We're giving $194,000 to the city of Cortland for expenses related to police and fire services. $194,000 also city of Oneonta for expenses related to police and fire services. Onondaga County for shared service projects with the city of Syracuse. And $83,000 for the county of Cayuga to mitigate shortfalls in real property tax dues, and also $48,000 AIM funding for villages that are not included in the executive's proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. Just in hearing you read those, I'm sure those municipalities appreciate the resources they're getting, although some of them I understand are a bit less than the prior year, so they might not be as happy as they might be. But most of those, as you read them, are funding and taking state resources to help out, which is certainly lessening the burden perhaps on them, but we'll hopefully see perhaps in later bills some of the other policy things as well as to funding that might provide some limits to them. And maybe that leads me in, one of the proposals the governor made was in shared services and having municipalities go through a process by county of looking for ways to save dollars. I guess my question, although we haven't seen that yet, and I'm not sure if it's going to survive on into the other bills that we see, but should it, is that going to be something instead of providing, a benefit or relief to the municipality, are we creating another unfunded mandate? Are we going to see any state resources, if that goes through, are we going to see any state resources that are going to go to that cooperative effort so that those municipalities don't have just more dollars that they're going to have to spend in an effort to try to save dollars?
We are not, that's not in this, and they are still negotiating.
When's the negotiating going to end? I'm ready.
I hope sometime tonight.
All right, you and me both. So go ahead. So you're not sure yet if it's going to be
Yes,
additional cost or there's.
There were some requirements that would do what you were talking about, but I think there's been discussions and we may end up neutral.
One of the things that is in this bill is related to the tuition assistance program for our college students in the state, and I understand it's about, as I read it, $1.1 billion going to the tuition assistance program, and that is an increase over the prior year. Do any of those resources that are being increased go towards increasing the minimum or maximum that, increasing the minimum amount that people get on tap, or increasing at the upper end what people are going to receive for tap?
No, it won't.
Okay, so we haven't done that. What about funding for expanding the income threshold? So that people who make a bit more might still be eligible for TAP?
No, we did not change that.
The governor had a proposal that would make, he promoted it as a free college program for some of our people going to our state and city-sponsored colleges. And I do see, though, there is some money, $87 million, I believe, going to the Excelsior program.
Right.
And that's what he called his program. Is that what that's directed for?
Yeah, it's for that program when we finish the negotiation.
So we haven't seen it yet, but
Yeah.
it would, that is
That
money
money
set
would be
aside
there,
to drive
yes.
it. So there's also $19 million for enhanced TAP. Can you give me an idea what that might mean?
Yes. Oh, that's for the independent colleges.
Oh,
Yeah.
so I know there had been some
Yeah.
discussions, but so we can expect to see some additional dollars
Right.
going for whatever purposes. We don't know yet because we haven't seen.
But it would, yes, but it would be.
So some for the private college as well for the 87 for the Excelsior. And the details of that we're probably going to see
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
There's a song, we'll sing it together.
Okay. One of the things I know it affects certain areas where I know there's been agreement with the state. In fact, I think you may have been in discussion with One of our members, it's been hard to keep the day straight, whether it was yesterday or 2 days ago or whenever, but talking about the Seneca Nation and whether or not they're going to be paying, they've been paying from resources they've gotten from their casinos, paying a portion to the state, and some of that money has gone to host communities. And so I just wanted to ask some, with them now saying they're not required to keep paying them, are those host communities in this budget going to be able to expect to get dollars as they have been in the past if the state isn't receiving the monies?
Yes. Yes.
And, excuse me, what about the non-host communities? So, for instance, the county I live in is not directly in the county where the casino is, but it's in a group of counties that have been benefiting. So the host communities are going to get their dollars. Our non-host communities, can they also expect to get the dollars that they
will get it? Yes, it'll be coming out of the state share.
And so we do anticipate that they'll be getting them. And then, again, I mentioned at the beginning of my remarks on education. We or this bill normally has all the education dollars in it. It doesn't. Can we, are we going to see something, a standalone, that is a part of another bill? Are we going to see something that finally we can tell our local school districts, these are the dollars you can anticipate for the coming fiscal year, and they can, in preparing their budgets, put those out? Can they have those available?
They're working right now to prepare them.
And
they will be available tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. On the bill.
Thank you.
On the bill, Mr. Oaks.
I appreciate the chairman's information provided, but like many of the other bills that we've had over the period of this lengthy, extremely lengthy budget process, there's an awful lot we haven't seen yet. And so as we drag on to close to 2 weeks of all of us being here together, the failure of this process, the failure of the bill that we're looking at now to not include so many things that people that we represent, to entities ranging from school districts to our local communities to not-for-profits, those that are listed, still uncertainty here as we've been trying to come to conclusion, but again, I believe it's a failure of our process when our schools and our communities and those who depend can't understand. And also, I must say that as the chairman read off the list of things that he put in the order of providing mandate relief, those are resources made available to communities, perhaps communities you represent getting those resources, and yet as substance to doing significant, specific things that our local school districts, that our local counties, villages, towns, and cities might have a burden lifted from them. It's one thing, it's nice to give a few dollars to help them meet their budgets and their needs, but to take away some of the costs and the burdens of unfunded mandates, that's when we can ultimately feel like we are making a greater difference for those communities. So at this point, I look forward to hopefully following the time frame that the chairman alluded to of getting those additional bills so we can complete the budget and do our duty in providing the information, the dollars, and the programs for the citizens of New York. Thank you very much.